Hey folks, this is Sid Patel, CEO of Beverage Network and International Bulk Wine and Spirits Show. I would love to invite you all for the International Bulk Wine and Spirits Show that's happening on July 29th and July 30th. So please mark that date in San Francisco. Go and get your tickets. If you've not, this is the biggest bulk wine, bulk spirits, private label gathering. Now, in this episode, I chat with Adam. He's the owner and CEO of Incredible Bulk Company, one of the best brokerage firms out in USA. We chat about the current pulse of the market. So check this out, nice 10 minutes on what's going on in the bulk wine industry, especially, if you are in the US.
Previously in 2024, we're seeing a lot of high volume, low dollar deals take place, but it feels much more active than it was even 12 months ago. Month over month, year over year. Last year was a market with tumbleweeds blowing through it and not a lot of activity. And this year it feels like because prices have maybe sunk to a point and inventories have depleted to a certain point where the buy side market's becoming more active, which feels like a good sign that some wine is being sold somewhere. It hasn't really changed in terms of the tariff restrictions or changes within the geopolitical system. It hasn't really affected trade flowing into the US. Like internationally priced wines are priced so favorably that even with a 10% increase, buyers seem to be fairly readily willing to absorb that. I had a buyer tell me that they got a great Merlot from the south of France for $2.50 a gallon that bumped up to $2.75, and they were still happy to get it delivered at that price. So in terms of those relationships, the market hasn't really changed. Where I am in the Pacific Northwest, there was a lot of trade with British Columbia last year that seems to have dried up almost completely, more based on anti-American sentiments, from what I'm being told, based on some of the political decisions that have been made, and not so much tariffs, because there was an 89% tariff previously to get American wine into Canada at the border that was waived because there are two major freeze events in the Okanagan and British Columbia that left them without a great market domestically there. So they got an exemption from the British Columbia government last year that allowed several thousand tons of grapes or bulk wine to move into the British Columbia market from Washington and Oregon mostly. But it seems like most of those companies are saying no to continuing that process this year, just based on changes that have made or things that have been said.
Got it. Tell us, Adam, a little bit about your company as well, right? Like what's the core services and, what kind of customers you deal with?
Incredible Bulk Wine Company is, in its essence, a bulk wine and wine grape brokerage, resource management firm, I guess, for the larger business world. It's relationships on both the buying and the selling side, and connecting people. I tell people it's kind of like the MLS for bulk wines and wine grapes, that there's listings with sellers and needs with buyers, and just trying to understand that buyers have styles and sellers traditionally have their own styles, and trying to do the work in advance to kind of align styles, personalities, just creating good relationships and hopefully relationships that last long term.
Can you give us like three sort of buyer requests that are popping up, meaning, where there is a demand, and then there are three sort of so much seller excess happening where they're saying, help me, so I want to hear both sides of the stories to get a perspective of what's really in demand and what's really in excess.
Napa Cabernet remains strongly in demand. Pricing's much lower than it used to be, but the demand, I mean, in terms of place name and varietal, there's really nothing more synonymous in the US wine market than that. Sauvignon Blanc from almost any region remains quite strong, and Pinot Gris globally, I think I had a broker in Italy tell me that Pinot Gris gone to $3 a liter, and they haven't seen that in years. So I'd say those are going quite strong right now. For the rest of the country, it feels like maybe outside of Paso Robles, it feels like Cabernet is a fairly soft market, and just red wines generally feel much more, as a friend of mine calls, a soggy or a squishy market, maybe oversaturated. So the same could be said for other traditional red varieties. Surprisingly, Merlot, maybe because some vines have been removed and the market's rewarmed to it, it's been a bit of a search. Maybe that's a bit of a surprise on the red wine side. It isn't strong enough of a demand to put it in that top three that you asked for, but it is a bit of a positive trend or happy surprise for the market, I think.
Great. I mean, you gave the varietals. What about the countries?
Oh,
Any
sure.
particular countries that are being asked for, and any countries that are just in excess?
I think every country's in excess to a degree, but the famous wine regions are always in demand to a degree. There's different categories like Chile, Spain, South Africa make great, excellent wines for the prices that they're asking. So I think those wines always stay in demand regardless of the climate. The wines are made so professionally that they're so ready to be consumed almost very close to harvest, and
Hmm.
the winemaking so professional that those regions always seem really ready, quick to market. Like I mentioned, Pinot Grigio from Italy, Prosecco from Italy,
Hmm.
that remains
Strong, yeah.
quite strong. So I don't know if I think I overgave on the three requests, but
No, it's okay. What about the chains of US, like the Walmarts of the world or the national grocery stores? Do you deal with them when do you get requests of end-to-end sort of sourcing, private label? What are they sort of projecting for the next 12 months?
I don't work with the retailers directly. I work with clients that have their own direct relationships with those retailers. So I couldn't say I don't do any private labels myself. So I couldn't tell you
Understood. So you're ma mainly helping the bottlers source, right? Which are directly dealing with them.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
But I see from what's moving what must be in demand from these retailers, but people also don't show me their cards and say this is
Yeah, no,
exactly.
that's okay. I'm not looking for buyer name, but what do you think is moving? What are bottlers asking for you?
Willamette Valley Pinot Noir has gotten a lot stronger in the last 6 months. That kind of hit a saturation and then declining point. Washington State red wines have actually been really strong over the last 6 months. Also, Napa
Hmm.
Cabernet again, domestically speaking, Sauvignon Blanc globally, sparkling wines globally all seem to be very strong, high demand. It definitely feels like the market shifted more towards strong marketing companies that can develop either strong concepts around packaging, around branding, labeling, that's really syncing up with market demand on the retailer side and seeing massive growth. There's a box wine called Grazie that's done incredible work in terms of every bit of marketing material they can fit into a box, into a social media post. It's about lifestyle. There's a company called Archer Roos that I think Constellation acquired a couple of years ago that's been really growing in the canned wine space and just resonating with consumers, resonating with retailers. So there definitely feels like there's some brands where people maybe from outside of the wine industry traditionally have great concepts around packaging, labeling, and marketing that are just investing their dollars there, letting the wineries take care of the wine and doing a great job telling a story and getting a product out to market.
I think one of the things that I hear a lot is the consumer shift is our biggest actually problem, right? Like overall drinking less. People are just drinking less. Trump tariffs are not the problem, right? As you said. So it's really overall the long-term shift that is happening. And as we know that people are just making less wine to come to the supply-demand gap. What is your advice to bulk producers who were in the bulk business, right? How do they navigate or readjust their strategy, let's say?
Global wine demand is definitely down. I read an interesting article in the San Francisco Chronicle saying that Americans, at least, are drinking more alcohol per capita than they have been, but they're drinking other things. So part of that's just a cycle and a trend. Like people go away from this type of drink and they move to that type of drink, and it happens over time. And right now, wine certainly feels soft. There are a lot of grapes being pulled out of the ground. The French government subsidized the massive pullout in the south of France. California, Washington, and the US are pulling out tens of thousands of acres to try to realign with market demand. I think bulk producers are making far less on speculation than they ever have in the time that I've been in business. So I feel like the market is trying to shrink and find out where that supply and demand curve lines up again so we can bring pricing back up based on market demand. So I feel like because we're in such an oversupply market, pricing's really softened. So because of that, I think in vintages 23, 24, 25, people made far less wine that they didn't have under contract and left grapes out in the field or made the decision to remove vineyards, there's a lot of diseased vineyard material that's 20 to 30 years old that probably was due to come out anyway. So it feels like we're in that part of the cycle, but I feel like in that part of the cycle, consumers are getting great wines at great prices that hopefully
Mhm.
brings more consumers into the fold that can kind of grow with us as we climb back up the ladder. No one likes to see this side of capitalism for sure when you hit a oversupply market of this size, but it feels like we're getting the chance to grab younger drinkers at lower price points that we can help develop over a longer period of time that I think will benefit everyone. It just feels pretty painful for people right now, I think. It's a bulk wine show, so everyone that's in the bulk wine business is there. So it's a very focused trade show with very focused buyers looking to do business at the trade show. I've had nothing but excellent experiences at these events, and I always look forward to the great speakers that you get, but I also just look forward to seeing the people in the bulk wine community and sharing stories. It's always good energy and a good time. Definitely recommended.